Ahead on NewsWatch, President Trump's national security agenda under fire. Can his immigration order uphold in the court? Plus, a small Jewish community in the biblical heartland broken apart. So why did the Israeli government remove these Jewish settlers? And Vladimir Putin's crackdown on the gospel will show you what happened when one Christian tried to share his faith and how his case could affect Christians across Russia. And thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. President Trump is defending some of his first major decisions as president. The fallout continues over President Trump's executive action on immigration, and his plans to overturn Obamacare may take longer than expected. Charlene Aaron is on the story.
The legal battle over the order now in the hands of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals after a judge in Washington state halted the policy.
We need strong programs so that people that love us and want to love our country and will end up loving our country are allowed in, not people that want to destroy us and destroy our country.
With the ban in legal limbo, travelers from those 7 Muslim-majority countries with ties to terrorism are now rushing to the U.S., reuniting with family.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't even explain it.
I am so grateful to everyone that helped in this.
Polls show the public supports the president's action, and regardless of the ruling from the Ninth Circuit, the order is likely headed for a possible final face-off at the Supreme Court. The Justice Department filed a defense of the ban with lawyers saying the travel ban was a lawful exercise of the president's authority to protect national security, and said a judge's order that put the policy on hold should be overturned. Meanwhile, there are growing concerns among congressional Republicans over repealing Obamacare. Conservative Republicans are worried about a growing number within the party who are pushing for a slower pace of undoing the health care law. And they're concerned that it could get even harder as next year's congressional elections get closer. Some more moderate Republicans in the Senate want a replacement ready for Obamacare before a vote to overturn it. I think the longer this drags on, the more people are starting to understand the chance of repeal is slipping away. Dan Holler, Vice President of Communications and Government Relations for Heritage Action, told the Wall Street Journal. President Trump says the process to finally repeal Obamacare may take until next year. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
President Donald Trump is coming under fire from members of his own party for defending Russian leader Vladimir Putin and for saying the U.S. is just like Russia. In an interview with the Fox O'Reilly Factor, Trump was pressed about whether he should really be praising Putin. And once again, Trump defended the Russian strongman.
He's a killer, though. Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
There is no moral equivalency between the United States of America, the greatest freedom-loving nation in the history of the world, and the murderous thugs that are in Putin's defense of his cronyism.
Senator John McCain calls Putin a murderer and a thug, saying the U.S. has made mistakes, but not intentional murders like Vladimir Putin. Putin, a former KGB agent, stands accused of having critics, journalists, and political opponents murdered in numerous high-profile cases. And a Putin critic, journalist Vladimir Kara-Murza, is believed to have just been poisoned for a second time and is now in a coma. Some prominent black religious leaders are speaking out against President Trump's plan to relax restrictions on the political activity of churches. The 1954 law, called the Johnson Amendment, has blocked church leaders from making official endorsements and political contributions. Reverend Raphael Warnock of Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church says ending the law, quote, opens up a can of worms that would undermine the church's moral authority. But supporters say it is time to give pastors the freedom to take strong positions without fear of the IRS stripping them of their tax-exempt status. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife have arrived in London to meet with the UK Prime Minister Theresa May. Iran is at the top of the agenda. Netanyahu says the most important thing at the moment is that countries like the US and UK line up against Iran's aggression and set clear limits. Iran has carried out about a dozen ballistic missile tests over the past 2 years and increased its uranium stockpile by 60% since the 2015 agreement. Despite some recent remarks about Israeli settlements, President Trump is widely expected to be a strong supporter of Israel. And one of the president's closest advisors is former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He recently visited Israel to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And in their meeting, he sat down with CBN News to discuss the new relationship between the U.S. and Israel.
We met in the Tel Aviv law offices of Greenberg Traurig, the only international law firm with an office in Israel, where Giuliani serves as its global chair of cybersecurity, privacy, and crisis management.
Well, Mayor Giuliani, thanks for joining us on CBN News.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You met earlier today with the Prime Minister, and
I did.
You gave a message, I believe, from President Trump. What kind of message?
Well, it was a message of friendship, and I just wanted to assure him that, from my point of view, the relationship between the United States and Israel has now gone back to normal. I thought the last 8 years it was abnormal that we had an American president that didn't support Israel in the way that I was used to, both Republican and Democratic presidents supporting Israel, and that he would now have a president that he could get along with, that shared essentially the same views on the world. Just like you had to notice the stark difference with, there were extra homes that were being built in a settlement with 2,500 extra homes.
Yeah.
And a couple of days ago, the reaction of the Obama administration, either from Hillary Clinton or John Kerry or Barack Obama, would have been condemnation of Israel, and instead the Trump administration's response was no comment.
Do you see that as a harbinger of a new relationship with the Trump administration in Israel?
I see it in two stages, and this is what I told the Prime Minister and other government officials that I met with. First, let's begin with the fact that we're back to our normal relationship, which is friendship. Second, I think it's going to be better than that, because I think President Trump has a very high regard for Israel. I think he sees Israel as a critical part of his effort to defeat radical Islamic terrorism. I think he sees Israel as a resource, not just an ally, but a resource. And I know he's surrounded by a group of advisors who have similar views. So I think we can make the friendship even stronger than it was. But we certainly are back to where we used to be. I remember telling Prime Minister Netanyahu some years ago, it must be very uncomfortable being the Prime Minister of Israel and not know whether the American president has your back. Of course, he didn't respond because he's too diplomatic to respond. Well, the American president now has his back, and vice versa.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Tel Aviv.
The Arkansas House says judges in state courtrooms should only use American laws when making decisions. The House voted 63-24 to approve the bill. Critics call it an anti-Sharia law, saying it targets Muslims. The bill does not mention Sharia law by name. Legislatures in Idaho, Kentucky, Montana, and Oregon have considered similar bills this year. It's because some judges in the U.S. have been using Islamic law to decide cases involving Muslims. The Pew Research Center says only a third of Americans say that being truly American means following the Christian faith. The study showed that 32% of Americans say being Christian is very important to national identity. More Republicans were reported to say Christianity is essential to being truly American, while 29% of Democrats agreed. For more information on this story, you can visit our website, cbnnews.com. Coming up, Jewish settlers ripped from their homes. Take a look at what's behind the controversy, one Jewish community in the biblical heartland of Israel. For the first time in more than 25 years, Israel may establish a new settlement in Samaria, also known as the West Bank. That is the pledge by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The announcement came shortly after Israeli police began dismantling what was called an illegal outpost this week. Here's CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl with the story from Amona.
Israelis living in biblical Judea and Samaria are hoping scenes like these won't be repeated now that President Trump is in office.
Netanyahu now, in this time, this moment after Ammon and after
for tomorrow need to say to Trump and to all the world that we will be here forever and we will build there and bring more Jewish for Judah and Samaria because this is our land, our historical, our Bible start from here.
This is Amona. Much of the world would call it an illegal outpost, but to the 42 families that live here, it's home. About 3,000 security forces and police have come to remove them from this hilltop home.
These people's lives are going to be changed forever. Their children will be traumatized. I saw them taking out the little kids this morning.
I'm a child in Israel. I also want a home. And if there's a court case against me, I also need a home in the land of Israel.
The evacuation ended with violent clashes at the synagogue between some of those who came to protest the raising of the settlement and police. Hundreds of other Israelis from near and far came to stand peacefully in solidarity with those losing their homes.
I love this country, I love this state, I love Israel, I do all what I can do to my people. And in this moment, I just come here to be with my brother.
Like my hand, it hurts me so much to see all the soldiers here hitting the other hand. It's like one hand hitting the other, like cancer. I'm here actually to connect, to identify, to connect with my people with the pain of my people, to be at this time crucial to the people of Israel and to express solidarity, the desire to settle the land, to build it.
This is the way of Abraham, of Yitzchak, of Yaakov. This is the place, not Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv it's true, but this is the place. All the story of the Bible is here.
Israel's High Court ordered the destruction of the 20-year-old hilltop community after it ruled in favor of a Palestinian claim that it was built on private land. The international community considers all Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank, to be illegal, but almost all of the 430,000 Israelis who live there live in communities built on Israeli state land and not private Palestinian property.
In the Six-Day War, after 1967, we returned here, and together with all the governments, the Likud and also the Labour Party, we established settlements. We returned home. This is terrible that we're dismantling settlements in the land of Israel.
Others said removing the Israelis won't bring peace.
And the reason it's so tragic is that this hill is going to stay barren. No good will come out of it. This will not promote peace in any way.
It's the first time in more than 10 years that Israel has evacuated Israelis from disputed land. In the summer of 2005, Israel uprooted more than 9,000 Israelis from 21 communities in the Gaza Strip and 4 in the northern West Bank in what became known as the disengagement. Now, with Trump in the White House, many Israelis are hoping the evacuation at Amona will be the last. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Amona.
Next, meet an American missionary in Russia who put gospel tracts in every mailbox in his city. But not everybody was happy about it. We'll share what happened next. 25 years after the collapse of communism, the fight for religious freedom in Russia still rages. 7 months ago, the first American was convicted of breaking a Russian law, a law that bans preaching the gospel outside of a registered church. Now he's going before Russia's Supreme Court. He's being represented by a lawyer from the Slavic Center for Law and Justice. And the outcome of his case could have huge ramifications for all Christians in the country. George Thomas brings us the story now from Moscow.
American Donald Orsowardi and his wife Ruth moved to the Russian city of Oryol 14 years ago.
My area is 250 miles south of Moscow, and they're very, very communist. They have a very Soviet mentality.
The couple decided Oryol would be a good place to settle down, buy a small home, and start evangelizing.
I'm there to give them the gospel of Jesus Christ, to tell them of the good news of salvation.
To do that, these Baptist missionaries placed gospel tracts with their home address in every single mailbox of each apartment building in Oryol.
There are 320,000 people in Oryol, so everybody has received a personal invitation from me with a plan of salvation.
And people responded. After a small church began, some gave their lives to Christ, and were baptized.
So everybody knows we're there. We're operating openly. It's no secret what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we're the only Americans within 250 miles. So everybody in town knows that I am the American.
But on Sunday morning, August 14th, 2016, their work came to a screeching halt.
I had been expecting it for 3 weeks before that. And then when they walked in, I thought, okay, here goes.
Let's pause here for a moment. 25 days before, on July 20th, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed new amendments to a law that governed religious life. Under the guise of confronting terrorism, Putin gave authorities the power to ban preaching, praying, proselytizing, and handing out religious materials outside government-sanctioned churches. The U.S. State Department warned the move signaled a troubling Russian trend of intimidation and harassment. Sergei Rakuba's organization works in Russia and in 13 other countries of the former Soviet Union.
This law is known among evangelical Christians in Russia as an anti-missionary law because it places harsh restrictions on evangelical churches and foreign missionary organizations.
Among other things, the law required foreign missionaries to have a permit to evangelize. Also, reading your Bible, singing, or simply praying outside a registered church, even in a home, became illegal. Roman Lankin is a lawyer with the Slavic Center for Law and Justice.
The law inflicted serious damage because suddenly many Christians feared that just talking about faith or sharing with others about God was a crime.
Andrea Desnetsky is a prominent Russian commentator.
So basically the law tells us not to do anything that can be called a missionary activity, including saying, I believe in Jesus, for instance.
Supporters say the law is necessary to confront terrorism, especially acts perpetrated by radical Muslims. But Rakuba insists there's a more sinister agenda.
The Russian authorities are trying to restrict the Protestant and evangelical movements and stop them from spreading their influence and the message of the gospel.
Back in Oriol, more than 3 weeks after the law's passage, Osawadi was home preaching when Russian officers suddenly appeared.
These 3 policemen walked right into our house where we meet and have our services.
His wife snapped these pictures of the plainclothes officers.
They didn't knock on the door, they didn't say anything, they just walked in.
They waited for Osawadi to finish his sermon, then started interrogating everyone.
And asked them, what are you doing here? What does this guy do here?
Hours later, he was taken to the police station.
I was charged with illegal missionary activity.
Osawadi then became the first American convicted under the new law.
Osawadi, who lives around 200 miles south of Moscow, was fined $640 for holding religious services in his home, as well as putting up posters in the community advertising for those meetings.
He appealed twice before a local court and lost. And he's not alone. Lankin, who represents Osawadi, says almost 36 people, mostly Russians, have fallen prey to the law.
Jehovah's Witnesses, Scientologists, and Mormons have also been targeted.
And just last month, a Russian yoga instructor was arrested for illegal missionary activity. But there's one group that's been left alone.
The law is unlikely to affect the Orthodox Church, which some 70% of Russians say they belong to.
For the moment, never, never, never. Because now the Russian Orthodox Church is closely associated with the state.
Desnetsky, who is Russian Orthodox, says there are growing numbers within his church that see all non-Orthodox Christians as cults or foreign spies. And he's not happy about it.
For some, Protestants are, if not enemies, then potential danger. So they need, to their opinion, some containing.
Actually, the word Orthodox in Russian, pravoslavny, means the proper way to glorify God, which implies that every other way is improper.
The Russian Orthodox Church has a powerful ally in Vladimir Putin. The president has elevated the church's prominence and influence in recent years. In fact, in some corners of Russian society, the Orthodox Church is considered the national church.
And this idea is being propagated by mass media, society, and unfortunately by the Orthodox Church and the government.
So for Osawardi, this is a fight for all non-Orthodox faiths to have the right to practice their beliefs freely in Russia.
If I don't have the right to sit in my own house with my friends and read the Bible and pray, then nobody has that right in this country, whether they're Russian citizens or foreign visitors.
For now, the Osawardis have stopped holding church services in their home while they appeal his conviction before Russia's Supreme Court. George Thomas, CBN News, Moscow.
It's time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. It's an encouraging word I hope will uplift you and inspire you to share it with others. Remember this, God spoke the world into existence, and He can speak change into your life. When God speaks, circumstances change, and God speaks through His word. So today, open the scripture with this in mind and receive His word in faith. With that word, make this a terrific Tuesday. That will have to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd always love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. You can also talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Have a terrific Tuesday, everybody. See you tomorrow.